Hey, I'm Decathlon Gamer. Welcome back to F1 Manager 24. It's episode 23. We're coming up on the end of this second season, and where everything seemed like it was going to be smooth sailing, it's been anything but. One, the car's been so much worse this year, and two, the finances down the stretch have been extremely tricky, and the prospect of building with a huge reset, a new era beginning next season. You figured we'd be set, and yet it's been incredibly challenging because we're still trying to get the finances up and running. Now, this year has been significantly better than last year in so many ways because the finances really have been better. We've committed a lot of money to facility upgrades this season that we weren't able to do in the prior season. And so for that, yeah, we're definitely doing better. However, just we haven't been able to contribute enough to the car itself, and I think it's really putting us on the back foot here at the end of this season, and we're gonna have a hard time. We're into November, and we have 2.7 million is all, yeah, and we're supposed to put some money away for the off season. Yeah, this is going to be tough. It's going to be really tough. Anyway, Winter gets a +1 to control for the month of November, defending and reactions all going up, while Otakoven gets a +1 to adaptability, overtaking, so a few 90s now, and +1 to defending. Watanabe, technical chief, now a 78 overall, continuing to improve. Round 22 of 24 complete, just a couple races left to go. Vegas results in a Charles Leclerc victory. Sainz does get the best lap, but not the win this time. Piastri rounds out the podium. We got a Williams in the top 5 here, and then otherwise it's your usual suspects. And of course, that particular Williams, Norris, has done a lot this season with a car that's definitely a little bit further down the grid order. Otakoven gets 19th, Winter DNFs. We don't beat a single team. We were on the lead lap. Looks like Pourchaire had a big problem. He was a couple laps down. Maybe that was the incident with Winter. But that's definitely a worry, as we literally can't afford anything replacement-wise. It's going to have to be what it is. Whatever Winter has, it's going to have to make it through the last 2 races. Winter's incident happened right at the beginning of the race. Never had a pit stop. Could have been a lap 1 incident. Sponsor plan has come to an end, so there's $5.5 million there. Much needed cash for us. Only a rear wing to replace for Winter, so we've really lucked out on that. But if the rear wing's gone, that means the gearbox is probably in really bad shape. No, the gearbox is fine. It's the engine and the ERS that have been destroyed. 2 races to go. We'll wait until qualifying to swap that out, but we do have a 40% engine and a 34% engine that'll have to carry us through the last 2 races. But the ERS, yeah, that's going to be a problem. Without any cash to spare, we're going to get one big research project in on the suspension, covering 13.5% of the 15% loss that we are set to see. So the suspension's going to get roughly back to where it was. The underfloor, it's covering a little over half of what's lost. The side pods are covering what's lost, just about. The chassis is covering a little over half. And the front wing and rear wing, all we've had is the upgrades that we've been able to continue to make on those to make us a little bit more competitive at the tail end of this season. And then, of course, we're going to end up losing half of what we've gained on those. I don't know what the exact percentage is, but it's not been good. I mean, we've probably covered maybe half of the front wing and maybe a quarter for the rear wing, and then we're going to lose half of that. Car's looking pretty sad for the start of next season. Now, of course, gains will be very easy when you're that low. And others are obviously going to take a hit. There's no way they are covering off that 50% loss. And the only reason why I didn't cover more on the chassis was it's a 70% loss on the chassis. So I know others will be in trouble, but I still think we're probably going to be last to start the season. We've never had a lost confidence message from the board this year, but I really feel like we're starting to toe that line. So I'm really hoping for at least one decent result in these last two where we don't finish last as a team. Sainz does get the win, but not the fastest lap this time, swapping places with Leclerc from last race. Identical points for them over these last two, but again, not mattering at this point. The season's already wrapped up. Norris gets 9th. Haas 11th, kicks Albert in 12th, so we are not apparently beating. There's Alonso. Yeah, we're not beating anybody again today. It's a 20th and 21st 2 laps and 3 laps down scenario. Ouch. Odekoven in 20th. Ricardo in the Alpine DNFs, and that's the only car we're able to beat. We're a lap off of everybody else. We're multiple seconds off of everybody. Did we have an incident with each other? That's what that's feeling like right there. Odekoven and Vinter coming together and then finishing well. I mean, look, we were seconds, multiple seconds off everybody else's pace. Wow, also 4 very slow pit stops, 2 or 3/10 of a second off of our average. Already December, driver development update, +1 to cornering for Vinter, adaptability, defending, and reactions +1. Meanwhile, for Odekoven, braking nearly maxed out, now a 96, adaptability 91, and accuracy 80. Trying to maintain our 80-81 at the end of the season has been a challenge, but what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to let it drop off. I've only got even one basic session to take it from a -3 to a -2. We're going to have the end of the year. We're going to lose some points anyway, and they're pretty easy to recover, especially from only a 77. What's been difficult all along has been our pit stop time. We cracked the top 10, I think, twice all season this year, even though we shaved off more than 1/10 of a second this season on our estimated pit stop time. What was it, 1/10 of a second? I mean, we went from about a 2.6 flat to a 2.4.5, so 1/10.5 even. Went from scoring a decent amount of points in the fastest pit stop competition a year ago to being dead last by a country mile this year. I know I set difficulty fairly high, and I think that's what's really costing me right now, because I set the difficulty for development to maximum, and it seems like it shows up not necessarily over the course of the season, but it feels like it shows up on January 1st, and we saw everybody else around us, as much as we improved, and in last year's edition of the game, like, we would already be up in the top 2 or 3 of the grid at this point with our pit crew, despite having a pit crew manager who's just, okay. Lower 80s. Even then, we would have already been up there, because micromanaging it works really well, and you could outdevelop everybody else. But here we are not having that, and I'm thinking the buff is a January 1st kind of buff. We saw everybody else not get worse. They got better. And here we are. We got better by 1/10.5 and still couldn't compete. I have a feeling it's going to, get even worse for the next season. I've made a lot of improvements November, December to bring this down from about a 2.5 flat to a 2.4.5. So we'll see how much we lose during the off season, but I feel like that's where the development really kicks in, and I think that's where the other cars are going to magically have a car quite a bit beyond where ours is, but with the better facilities and committing more money to the car next season, as opposed to those facility upgrades and then just kind of the cheaper facility ones, get those back on track and upgraded. We'll see what next season look like, but I'm pretty nervous. This season 2 has been a real sophomore slump. So Sainz wraps up the season with another victory. Leclerc again second place. This time Sainz does get the bonus point. We're obviously not in the 10, but Hulkenberg is, so Kix Albert clearly continue developing into the end of the season. Fingers crossed that means they're going to be so far behind at the beginning of next year. RB also scoring some points here. very late on, and it's a 19th and 20th, 3 laps down. We had ERS problems, we had engine problems. Both cars were in really sad shape for this final race. I don't know if they took damage. I think this is the reality of a really slow car, and B, components worn down so bad at the end of the season, because it turns out that we didn't have an issue with Vinter. We had major ERS malfunctions where it was barely working, and so I think we basically ran the race without a battery. And so, you can see Otakoven was a second off of everybody else, and Vinter was 2 seconds off of everybody else with her best lap. They just ran what they could, but with Russell and Magnussen out, we don't beat a single team, but we do at least get our 900K bonus. Hopefully we still have a job. That's kind of the big thing at this point. The finances will be a little bit better off because we had 2 sponsor periods here, but even then, I think 12 million is not going to come anywhere near close to cutting it. We're going to have a January 1st 12-hour negative balance, almost certainly. Sainz wins the championship comfortably, nearly 200 points ahead of Leclerc. Leclerc was a very clear challenger for second place, though, but 17 wins out of 24 races it doesn't get much easier than that. Even though he's only an 87 overall, the Red Bull was clearly stronger, but Gio with a 78 overall. Talk about bringing in a second driver, right? Leclerc with a 90 overall, Hamilton with his 89, only getting 280. Like, Ferrari clearly had a weaker team. Was McLaren the stronger car? Otakoven finishes this championship with 1 point and 20th place overall. Magnussen never scored a point, only a 79 overall. I think that's the clear difference between those two. Stronger car, but weaker driver. And Vinter not even able to beat Magnussen. So, oh my goodness, the last day of the season, Red Bull has won the Constructors. They've won the Constructors over Ferrari on the final day. Yikes. What happened with Ferrari here? Leclerc, okay. Gio got 4th, one of his best results of the season. I mean, Gio had no podiums. He got 4th maybe twice all year. And what happened to Hamilton? 18th, a lap down, clearly picked up damage, one would assume. It's the only way for that one to happen. Wow. Big flip on the final day, and Ferrari lose the Constructors. And then, of course, we had our 1 point. Alpine had 3. So dead last, kicks Albert and RB, both strong at the end of the year. Let's hope that really sets them back for next season. Alpine, like us, I think we're focused on next year. Haas seemed to be focused on next year. Williams was on the here and now. Again, we're outside of the fastest pit stop times, and look at just how far off we are. 2 flat to a 2.286 for 10th. Like, I cut it from a year ago. 2 4s and 2 5s were in the points. A year later, they've shaved off 0.3 of a second. Like, here, you can't even scroll down to see how many points we have, but Haas has 45, Kicksauber had 48. We had, I think, 59 last season. This season, it was 6 or 8 points. We had a 2.39 this time, one of our best of the season, but still so far off what everybody else is. And this time we were actually consistent. We had 2.4s, slightly better than average, and a 2.5. So the pit crew ended the season on a good note. Of course, we spent a lot of time before these last 2 races working on it. So, we've been getting faster and faster. We just haven't seen it showing up in the pit stop times. Here it finally does. And of course, we're about to end the season and see that reset and drop off again. And with our mediocre pit crew manager, it looks like we really are quite a ways behind everybody. But at least we got our near $1 million payout here on the final race of the season. But I am worried that we're heading into trouble. And I'm still not convinced that we're safe. I have not checked the board. I'm a little nervous about whether we even have a job for next season or not. Winter at least finishes his final race leveling up, despite how off the pace we were in that race. 87. I did manage to get through the entire season without taking a single additional engine component. It just really cost us in the last 2 races. Even longer for Odekoven, as Odekoven did her damage a little bit earlier on. It was about 4 races for her, 2 for Winter, that we were quite off the pace as a result, but we just didn't have the extra money laying around to replace those components. In F2, it's Kimi Antonelli who has won. Not slightly. That's his rating. He's an 82 overall at this point. 385 points for Antonelli. That's comfortable as your winner. And kind of going down the list, you can see where everybody was at in the points, with Trident comfortably taking the constructors. All right, the new simulator is done, so the factory work is complete, and that's going to help us for next year. But it's just it's going to be super tricky on a few things here. Head of Aero, Terso, a 79, approaching those 80s. I mean, we've got respectable staff, and the facilities are getting to a tolerable level. You feel like we could be on the verge of a breakout in competitiveness, at least at the back end of the grid, and score the occasional points. But I don't know. I don't know if we even still have a job. I'm getting more and more nervous day by day as it ticks by. We have not had a vote of no confidence from the board, though. There's been no message about that, so I'm probably just grasping at straws here. We're probably okay. Probably. We've seen plenty of people get blindsided, though. I mean, I just heard some American sports coach, I think it was a college football coach. I didn't read the headline. I just heard it. It was like, ooh, that's nasty. Guy gets a 3-year contract extension, 5 games into the season. No, see, it's not even that. It's a soccer coach. It's got to be a soccer coach if we're talking 5 games into the season, where I'm at in timeline. Anyway, 5 matches into the season, fired. Right after he just had a multi-year contract extension. And didn't even have the worst of results. It was an Italian club. See, it's coming back to me already. Okay. Well, this is different. I've never seen a young driver decline, but Flores has dropped to a 57 overall, and in 2 months as our affiliate driver, she'd only picked up 1 point. She'd only developed by a single point, and clearly is now going the other direction. And she was a 59, so now she's a 57. It's saying 58 was the drop, but no, she was a 59. Okay. Is this our facilities doing this to her? Is it her lack of potential doing it to her? I know that Frontier have done her absolutely dirty when it came to, she was higher rated a year ago and then had the best season of her career. It was her 3rd F3 season. She was best by far last year in real life. And they lowered her rating and apparently lowered her potential quite a bit and already have her on the decline. Now, yes, there are other talents that are bigger prospects than Flores at levels just below where she's at, that are younger and seemingly are going to be better. But they really have done her dirty, because they've got her rated as the worst F3 driver comparatively IRL, and she's not the weakest F3 driver at all. So yeah, it's just really harsh, and I guess she doesn't have a ride, and so being an affiliate driver for us, getting her in the simulator, should at least keep her stable or help her improve a little. Not the case. Oh yeah, here we go. We have a message regarding this one. I've been going over the telemetry from the last few races. Performance is deteriorating. Report below. Could be various reasons for this drop, and I know it happens to all drivers eventually as they reach the later stages of their career. She's like 24 in game. I'll continue to support them as best I can, but I'm not sure how much progress they'll be able to make going forward. Yeah, losing multiple points here. Pretty much every 1 to 2 points, like, in everything. So Florsch is now officially a bust. Maskell, our race engineer, our highest rated overall staff member, now an 87. Try to keep up with the drivers. Okay, here we go. End of the year. Season engagement failed. Season engagement by like 0.01%. 10K is all we're losing. 10K is what we're down by, and I had excess. Florsch was part of it. Florsch was part of my engagement activities for this last period. So she's not only taken a decline in her abilities, apparently it took a hit on her marketability as well. And so we took a hit, and I had a cushion, but it was the last one of the year. I didn't have much of a cushion. But I had a cushion, and so it took quite a bit away from that. So my team marketability drops by 1 point for our end of season review for not making the overall target. There's 16.7 million in mandatory funding that never came. There's been comments that says it's not a bug, it's by design, but that money never shows up anywhere. It's supposed to be included in the engagement, but you exceed the engagement and you just don't get it. You have a maximum engagement and that's it, period. So you either fail your engagement, but you got your mandatory money in its place with still there's your maximum. That just doesn't make sense. That does not add up in any sort of, like, why would anyone, you could take 1 million game designers and not one of them would design a game that way on purpose. Not one. Doesn't make sense to do that for anyone. Like, why would you lump it into something that has a max that already has functionality? It's a separate element. Should be included in that. Doesn't make sense. Anyway, race targets. We earned 31 million apparently, with a target of 19 million, and our engagement came out to 42 million. Okay, well, team marketability drops by 1 point. Right. And we're not going to get much for the fastest pit stop either. 11th. Yeah, it was 6 points. There you go. There's your confirmation. 6 points. 600K is all we pick up for that one. Lost confidence. Wrap. It doesn't say no confidence. It just says lost confidence. I don't... Is that game over? Vinter, no points. Soda Coven, 1 point. 1 point as a team. Team rating apparently is dropping. Critically failed because we finished 11th. Team principal rating has dropped to nothing. It's down to 0, and our team rating as a team has dropped to 114. We pick up 1 heritage point, but our team rating drops because we finished 11th instead of 10th. Now it's a big old red, ouchy, lost confidence thing. There's no board funding. It's just on the edge of the face cam here. No board funding. Folks, I think we just lost our job. And there's our confirmation. I have been fired. Well. Folks, I did not expect this. I mean, I was nervous about it, but I didn't expect it. Like, this was a bad stretch, right? We pulled 3 out of 4 races, and then it failed again at the end of the season. So they were still satisfied with the race performance. The long-term objectives failed and critically failed. They were already disappointed, but they were satisfied with the finances. I kind of thought that the race performance was keeping us afloat. I thought that they were going to have low confidence, sure, And I knew that there was a risk, and that's why I've been bringing it up. But I didn't think we'd actually get fired. I mean, how many years did it take Haas to let go of Gunther Steiner with poor performances? And, you've seen teams stick with their staff for a long, long time. We have way less budget. We've been working with way less budget. We've been working with a car that was way behind, and to get let go in 2 years, like, the board has been completely unrealistic. Our car was miles behind everybody else, and the fact that we beat any teams at all at any stage in the season should have been celebrated, but it wasn't. They were hungry for more. Well, folks, we're definitely not switching teams, and I'm definitely not done playing F1 Manager, but it certainly looks like this has been a failed experiment. That's going to end this current run of this series. We're going to be starting with an episode 1 anew in the near future. I'm Decathlon Gamer. That's going to do it for this one. Bit of a surprise. I gotta tell you, I know I've been mentioning it, but part of that was theatrics. Like, I did not expect to get fired here, but it's what's happened. The facilities, season 1 kept us afloat. Like, we got just enough car development, but then with those facilities getting bent out of shape, the development was impossible for season 2, and so then we focused on developing those facilities, but it never translated into a competitive car. That's still on me. I mean, I made choices on where to go with facility development, but what I was saying earlier this episode about what happened with the other pit crews, like the way that they shaved off 0.3 of a second from last season suddenly during the off season. I think that's what's really screwed us over, is that there's some sort of January 1st buff. That was the hard development setting that I made, the hardest development setting. Seems like it appeared on January 1st, not over the course of a season, not over the course of like the developments they put on the car as the year goes on, that it's hard to keep up and that it's hard to overtake and that it's hard to get off that bottom spot. I think it was all one big January 1st boost. That then put us in that position where it was just hard to ever get competitive. I mean, the car was dead last in virtually everything. We had a little bit of acceleration at the very, very, very end of the season. Our low-speed cornering had overtaken a single car. That was it. We did like 5 iterations of the front wing and 4 of the rear wing, despite everything. And almost all of those upgrades were like lots of hours thrown into. And I don't think the car was looking very competitive for next season either. I mean, we covered off 2 components. We half covered off 2 components, and we barely covered off 2 components for entering into next season. We were going to be in a pretty sad state to start the year. Yeah, well, so be it. It happens. We've been let go, and I'm not sure what's next. Clearly the all-female run is challenging. I think we might have to go for something else, but we had good drivers. We had okay staff. Just having the lowest facilities and no cash has really, really made this a very difficult run. Now, of course, there were lessons learned about sponsors and whatnot, as we went along. But, yowzer. I'm Decathlon Gamer. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one. Be safe out there. Bye for now.